we're on somewhat hallowed turf here if you're an Irish car enthusiast, because this is the home of Motor Distributors Limited, and around these hallowed halls have been marques imported into Ireland, the likes of Volkswagen, Mazda, Skoda, even Citroën for a while, and actually built here as well, but most famously, of course, and as you can probably tell from some of the vehicles arrayed around us, this is the home of Mercedes-Benz in Ireland and has been for a very, very long time. It still is, but Motor Distributors is branching out and it's importing other brands now, including, most importantly of all, BYD, the enormous Chinese brand. Build your dreams. It's a slightly silly acronym. Certainly not silly cars though. We've been really impressed by the vehicles we've seen from BYD so far. And this, the Dolphin, silly name, but very definitely not a silly car, is one of the more impressive. It's a 5-door hatchback. It's roughly about the same size as a Volkswagen ID3 or an MG4, and yet this is one of the most affordable EVs on the Irish market, because in a few months, when the lowest price version arrives with the smaller battery and a 310 kilometer range, this will be just €25,000. Now this one isn't. This is a bigger battery. This is a 60 kilowatt hour battery, 420 kilometer range, and therefore it's just over €30,000, but extraordinarily well equipped for that money. I mean, it's maybe not the most handsome thing around. I mean, the two-tone paint definitely helps this one. It's a little bit snub-nosed, I guess you could say, but it's agreeable enough looking, I think you'll agree, and it gets even better inside. So let's go and take a look at that, shall we? I think one of the things that's always surprising, particularly about the Dolphin, is just how sophisticated the interior feels. In fact, it feels more so, to me anyway, than the more expensive 4-door Seal saloon, the one that competes with Tesla's Model 3. I mean, for anything between 25 and 35,000 euro, this is a really, really good cabin. I mean, you could argue that it's a bit overstyled. There's big body-coloured swooshes around the air vents here, and there's a lot of stuff going on down here, and you get kind of different materials and changes in colour and texture. The whole thing works extraordinarily well though, and it really is very well made. Now, okay, we still get the same gimmicky touchscreen, which when you press the button, can rotate from portrait to landscape and back again. That is a bit of a gimmick, because to be honest with you, one of the problems with it is if you're wearing polarized sunglasses, not much call for them today, but when the summer comes around again, you can't actually see the screen when it's in its portrait mode. It only will work in landscape. It also will only work in landscape if you're using Apple CarPlay, incidentally. So that is another limitation. But it's it's a touchy-feely thing, isn't it? It's a dealer flaw kind of thing. It just makes it look impressive. You've got a nice 3-spoke steering wheel. The instrument panel behind the wheel, absolutely good to have it there. This one's a little bit cluttered though, and some of the graphics look a little bit cheap. So that's not brilliant, but I mean, at least it is there and you have it, and you don't have to rely on the center screen as your instrument panel. Lovely little lineup of rocker switches and volume control and gear shift here. Good storage space down here. There's more in here, tucked in here. There's a QI pad for charging your mobile phone. Loads of storage down here, cup holders here, decent sized door bins. It's a very practical car. You can totally see living with this day to day, no hassle whatsoever. What's it like in the back though? Here in the back of the Dolphins, there's plenty of space. You can see the amount of legroom I've got. Headroom is okay, but if you've got the big glass roof, this part of the roof dips down slightly, so as you lean forward, you can feel your hair brushing the roof. If you've got your head back, it's not so much of a problem, but yeah, I might avoid that roof, even though it is quite nice for letting in a bit of extra light. Very high-backed front bucket seats, which are great when you're sitting in the front. Not so great when you're sitting back here, because they do tend to block your view a little bit, but the side windows are a good size, so that's nice. The floor is flat, but in common with a lot of EVs, it's quite high up, so your knees end up sitting a bit higher. Of course, the trade-off is that you've got a very good battery under there, the 60 kilowatt hour LFP, lithium iron phosphate battery, which is theoretically anyway more robust than a conventional battery, and which you can charge to 100% bang, bang, bang every time without wearing it out too fast. Quality again is very good back here. Everything feels pretty much as plush as it does in the front. You've again got good storage, good door bins, big seat back pockets with extra little pockets for your phones and your earbuds. The only place where the quality feel gets let down is in the boot. Things like the rear parcel shelf feels very, very flimsy and cheap, and the boot itself isn't all that big given the overall size of the car. It would be nice to see a little bit more luggage space, but I guess the compromise then would be you wouldn't have as much space for passengers here in the back. So overall, it's a good balance. And again, very, very practical. I mean, I guess with the kind of high floor and the way it makes your knees sit up a bit, it might be a little bit uncomfortable for taller drivers, or taller passengers, I should say, on a very long journey. But for most of us, you know, for shorter hops, it'll be absolutely fine. It's very, very good in that respect. When you have a relatively new, or at least recently arrived car company, the tendency is to allow a certain amount of leeway with the first few new models. You kind of go, well, it's their first effort. They're new in the market. They need time to build up to getting everything right and to becoming competitive with the big familiar brands. But with BYD, I mean, that's not only incredibly patronizing, it's also just simply not the case. You don't need to make any excuses for this Dolphin. This is actually a really well-rounded, strongly performing car. I mean, let's talk about that battery for a start. So 60 kilowatt hours, and it's lithium iron phosphate, so you can bang in 100% charge as much as you like, even from fast chargers. You're not going to damage the battery chemistry. You're not going to run down the capacity of the battery in the same way that you would with a conventional lithium ion battery. So that's really good. Range is, generally speaking, very good. You will normally, on 100% charge, you will see an indicated 410 or so kilometers, so it does live up to its claimed range in that respect. In terms of day-to-day motoring, I do think you will probably get an actual 400 kilometers out of it in mixed driving, if you're, you know, mixing up a bit of city, town and country driving. If you're on the motorway all day long, which is generally speaking what I end up doing, that's probably going to fall to around about somewhere between 350 and 380 kilometers, which is not bad actually for a car of this size and a battery of that capacity. Overall energy consumption seems to fall to about around about 19 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Again, that goes up a bit on the motorway, maybe 21 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. So that's actually very good. I think the only potential downside is that on DC fast power, it will only charge at up to 88 kilowatts, which is okay. It's not the quickest. It will kind of leave you hanging a little bit if you're on a longer journey and you just need to get a quick top up. But in general, very good performance. Solid performance from the electric motor too. I mean, most of the time you'll end up driving in eco mode, so that means the initial acceleration is quite gentle, which is fine. If you absolutely slam the throttle down hard, you will get a bit of wheel spin because it is quite torquey and it is driving the front wheels as well. Most of its rivals are actually rear wheel drive. Certainly the Volkswagen ID3, the MG4 and the Cupra Born all are. But handling is fine. Excuse me. It's not a thrilling car to drive. The steering is quite light, but reasonably accurate and reasonably well, you know, well balanced. It's basically fine. It's not exceptional in any sense. The ride quality is very, very good, though. It is a very, very comfortable car to drive. Although the corollary of that is that around town, over speed bumps, if you're a little bit too enthusiastic with your speed, you will scrape the nose on the downslope because the damping control isn't quite there yet. What I'm really impressed about, though, with the Dolphin is this interior, because it actually is, I know we spoke about it earlier already, but it's really, really good. It's really well made. Like I said, even the cheap plastics have a nice texture to them that's pleasing both to the eye and to the touch. The touchscreen, I mean, the rotating thing is a complete gimmick. Honestly, the software needs a reflash because things like, you know, when you go into like Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, suddenly you lose your climate controls. So just adjusting the cabin temperature suddenly turns into like 3 or 4 clicks and a swipe. That's not very good. I do like these shortcut buttons down here where the gear shifter is. That all looks neat. It works well. Nice steering wheel, good steering wheel controls, and good space, good comfort too. These front seats, high back bucket seats, these are really, really good, really, really comfortable, even on a long journey. The only disappointment really is the small boot. And then we come to the price. I mean, you can get one of these for a hair under €30,000 at the moment, and there will be a cheaper version coming, albeit with significantly less range. I think this is probably the sweet spot, really, because it does give you a decent usable range, a reasonable charging experience, and reasonable performance for not an awful lot of money. Certainly in electric car terms, not an awful lot of money. So yeah, there's absolutely no need for patronizing Western-centric comments about they'll get it right next time. No, BYD has got this right pretty much off the bat. It's a very well-rounded, very well put together, not bad looking. I mean, in styling terms, it's not the greatest looking car in the world, but it's fine. It's no worse than an ID3, probably not as handsome as a Cupra Born. Probably not as striking as an MG4, but nonetheless, it looks good. And again, the two-tone paint, as I said, it does help. And in terms of a thing to drive, it's really, really good. And it has one of the best batteries around for the price. So, yeah, top marks, really, for the Dolphin. This it might have a funny aquatic name, but it's not going to leave you all at sea.